Okay, let's start. I think
we are live now, doctor.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this TNOA Thursday, 9th November 2023. Welcome to TNOA program. So at the outset, extremely sorry for the starting trouble. So there was a linking issue and we have sorted out, and we hope to have a very good program. So at the outset, I welcome all the EC members, past presidents, senior members of TNOA, our managing committee members, members of the various committees of Team TNOA, and particularly the TNOA Wellness Committee convener, Dr. Ravi Kumar, Chairman Dr. Arvind, our guest speakers for today's evening session, the panelists, and all the participants. So welcome all of you. And this is our team. And towards this end, we have initiated many programs from the Team TNOA. And we've been working on this platinum theme. And today's meeting is the effort of our wellness committee. And all the other committees and our team are working in cooperation and with enthusiasm. So we had a lot of problems ever since this team took over. So we had the live wire CME, and the next live wire session is scheduled for the 3rd December 2023 at Pondicherry, along with the Pondicherry Ophthalmic Association. Please join us for that direct program. And our medical legal committee is doing a wonderful job. We had 2 excellent sessions, and our Tamil committee has also done a wonderful job. Apart from releasing the hard copy of the Tamil consent, we are working on the version 2 now, and we're also working on a program in Tamil at the mid-year meeting. Our insurance committee is working continuously for the last few months, ever since the committee was formed, starting from the advisory committee meeting and then the meeting with the General Insurance Council along with IMA and Nursing Home Board. And our training and education committee is also working overnight. Soon we'll have programs for the World Diabetes Day, headed by Dr. Manoj Khatri and Dr. Sriram. And ARC team recently had a ARC meeting at Nagarkoil by the District Ophthalmic Association. And the next program is scheduled for the TNOA at Karaikal. Our task force on advocacy, so we met the health minister and gave our demands as well as our advocacy initiatives for TNOA, thanks to Dr. Mohan Rajan. And our young ophthalmology task force, again, doing wonderful job. So recently we had 2 webinars, as well as in the last online had more than 1,060 views, and now it has gone to 1,400, thanks to Dr. Prasanna and Dr. Nishant. So what's coming up to update all of you? So this is our requirement from the TNOA Insurance Committee to register your hospital through the Google form, so that we know how many hospitals we are in our fold, and we can work with the team to get better rates as well as represent all of you. So this Google form has been circulated by the Secretary, Dr. Sriram Gopal. So kindly fill it up as soon as possible, so that we'll have a next meeting is scheduled somewhere in the last week of November. So we'll be meeting and discussing all the issues pertaining to the insurance issues. There is also a requirement from the TNOA members from the All India Ophthalmic Society, ARC, a nomination for the Leadership Development Program. So ensure if you are eligible, please route your nomination through TNOA to tnoasecretary@gmail.com. And I'm happy to invite all of you to the TNOA mid-year meet. We will schedule this at Elagiri on 27th and 28th of January 2024. Request all of you to join us for this mid-year meet. The event highlights, we have good engaging scientific sessions, the Ophthalmic Premier League, practice management session and session on finance, and Tamil session, and of course a continuation of all this wellness activities at Eligiri also, and of course with more fun and entertainment. I request all members to join us at Eligiri. So now coming to this session, so this was our initiative for the member cares, and we all know health is wealth, and a lot of networking and wellness activities are happening with the medical fraternity as well as non-medical people. And of course, you all know the four cornerstone of wellness. So our intention was to promote healthy work-life balance among the ophthalmologists and the medical fraternity, offer financial education, so that will come later, provide mental health resources and support, and encourage physical wellness. So towards this end, with that objective, we formed this committee, and this group has really done wonderful. So every morning has been a new gyan from the chairperson, Dr. Arvind and Ravi Kumar and Vinod. And so being well while being a doctor, it's very, very important that we are in a good state of mind and state of being when we offer treatment and care to our people. And so this is very important. So we all know as doctors, we communicate differently, we organize differently, we shout differently, we read differently. And are we living differently? Are we doing what we preach to our patients? So this is the crux of the matter today. And this is very important, physical, mental, and personal appearance. And of course, financial health also plays a major role. And this graph will give you that why self-care is very important. So most of the time we spend alone. And so after some time, this time increases. So it's very important that we realize as professionals, we have to take care of ourselves. And physical fitness is the first requirement. And to that end, so we have brought good experts to talk to us about physical fitness. And we all know healthy lifestyle starts in kitchen. So we have an expert, Dr. Uttara Kumaran, who will be talking to us. And burnout is one major issue. Mental health is very, very important for medical professionals. And we have a psychiatrist joining us to raise awareness. So being well is to have a balanced status. And these are the key areas. Hopefully, we'll be having a good optimal health and reach balance in all three. So with that, I welcome all of you to this program and request our Vice President, Dr. Sujata, to say a few words. So may you be happy, may you be healthy.
Hello. Dr. Nirmal, are you able to hear me? Hello. Hello.
Yes, madam. Able to hear, madam.
Yes, madam. Proceed.
Yeah. Okay, right. So good evening, everybody. I think this is one of the very interesting programs I've been looking forward to, because I think being fit is extremely important, whatever age you are in, because once you lose the fitness, then you realize what you've really lost. And being fit is not only physical fitness, because physical fitness meaning that what you're able to execute normally day-to-day activities, but also to have a mental fitness. So I think this program encompasses both the physical fitness and nutrition as well as the mental fitness. So I'm really looking forward to this, and hats off to Dr. Nirmal to once again create a fantastic program. I'm sure that all of us are going to enjoy. All the very best. Dr. Nirmal?
I think Dr. Nirmal is disconnected, so I'll take the liberty of starting the program, and I will share my screen right now. So good evening and welcome to the first TNOA Wellness webinar. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, Arvind, you are audible.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
Arvind.
Thank you.
can.
Yes.
Right. So all this started with just one idea, right? How can we change people for the better? When we started talking about physical fitness, just defining it became so difficult. Who do you call fit? Is it somebody with big muscles, somebody who's very flexible, or somebody who can think better, sing better, dance better? So it was just a huge area which was still addressed, but still left with a lot to clarify for. So our visionary leader, Dr. Nirmal Fredrick, started this committee of like-minded eye doctors who are all interested in fitness and also interested in transforming other people. We were not experts in any field other than ophthalmology, our main core subject. Interest in health, fitness, and transforming was what bound us together. And with this interest, we thought about what to do for the ophthalmologists of Tamil Nadu. And together, after a lot of brainstorming, we thought maybe we can write a product book, an SOP manual of how to become fit, what to do and what not to do. But what does it mean for people? Will they change? Maybe, but maybe not. So we had to see our first obstacle, which was actually suggested by Newton. The first law of motion states that everybody stays in a state of rest till a force is applied on it. And so we set out to create a force, a group called the Fitness for All. FFA is a very favorite term for all ophthalmologists, and we borrowed the same acronym for our group also. And we based this on 4 pillars of health: physical fitness, mental health, the science of nutrition, and the importance of sleep. We designed this icon, which is a blue iris with an icon of a person doing a one-arm handstand. For people who know this pose, it's a very challenging pose which requires strength, focus, balance, and years of dedication. Very similar to what a fit body also requires. So we tried to bring about this constant state of balance through our group. So what is FFA today? FFA today is just a small group of like-minded ophthalmologists of Tamil Nadu. We've all come together, but we have managed to create this energy. The energy is so palpable that every day we have people waking up and posting their accolades of the day, their achievements, their step count, what they ate, what they've achieved, how much they've run, how much they've cycled. We have the age group of from 24 all up to 70 with all various levels of fitness, some aspiring to be, and some have already achieved various goals. We have a schedule every day to keep it lively and interesting. We have mindfulness on Monday. We have a guest coming and giving us some insights on Tuesday. We have Wednesdays with Vinod, our fitness trainer and an exclusively specialist in a running field who gives us insights into running and strength training. Thursday, we shine the spotlight on individual ophthalmologists who have managed to transform themselves. And mind you, this is one of the most interesting sessions we've been able to tap into. Our Friday free day is a very fun day where we post anything which comes to mind in mental health to make us feel happy. And Saturday, we generally reflect on these. So this is the beginning. And what is the future? So we want to simplify the science of wellness. We don't want it to be so complicated that it is only defined or content with textbooks or major experts. We want to conduct more such webinars where information transfer becomes easier. We want subject experts to give us more insights. We want to have weekly tips on personal development by other faculty. And we want to conduct more workshops on wellness, brain health, physical fitness, stress management. And I am learning so many more terms as I'm getting involved with this program itself. We also want to have individual mentorship programs where our fitness accomplished people would like to train some more people who would like to aspire to be better than themselves. Some of the live events that we have planned, and Dr. Ravi Kumar has managed to conduct the first yoga workshop also as part of the FFA initiative quite successfully, and we have several more coming up in the pipeline. For people who are TNOA members, you just have to join our FFA WhatsApp group by using the link which I'll be providing. For all the others, you can always follow our FFA WhatsApp channel, which has all the updates and all the information regarding our fitness initiative. This moment is special for me. I would like to dedicate all my efforts to transform people to my father, whose anniversary falls around this time. And I welcome you all to this first landmark webinar on holistic wellness. We are all experts in disease, but are we any better when it comes to talking about health than the other layperson? To start this initiation, we have an expert group of speakers and panelists, and without wasting too much time, let's get on cracking. I'll stop sharing my screen. I would like Dr. Ravi Kumar to introduce our first speaker for the day. Dr. Ravi Kumar is...
Yes, sir. I'm in only.
Okay. Again, in view of time, I'm just going to go back to share the screen and introduce Vinod myself. I think I briefly lost connection. Am I back on? Am I audible now?
Yes, you're audible.
Right. So I'm going back to my screen. Sorry. That's... Yes. Did you get the part where I was introducing you? Yeah. An exceptional person and full-time ophthalmologist and an ISSA certified fitness trainer who has run several events which are far beyond the capacity of a common man. And recently he finished second in the Aircard Ultra Marathon. He also takes a lot of pain in chronicling all his events on social media, making sure he's there to inspire a lot more people, and documenting his journey gives a lot of people a workbook to start their own fitness journey. He has also been conducting the Wednesday with Vinod session with the FFA, guiding a lot of people to take their first step. And very suitably, I've given his first talk as that, take your first step, how to start running as your first step to physical fitness. I will stop sharing my screen here and hand over the space to Dr. Vinod. Over to you, Dr. Vinod.
Vinod is muted.
Vinod, you're muted.
Sorry, I guess I was mute. Am I audible now?
You're audible now. Please go
Am I
ahead.
audible now? Hi, excellent. Thank you. Thank you for the great introduction. So I'll share my screen now. So I think all of you will be familiar with the term couch to 5K. So the topic that's been given now to me is couch to 10K. So I think there's a lot of 10Ks going on now, and there's also the Chennai Marathon coming up this year end, and I think this topic would be apt for everybody. So initially, I think most of us make this mistake when we set out to run. We just go ahead and try to run 1 kilometer. and then eventually we get hurt. One, we get in some kind of joint pain, probably mostly it ends up with knee pain, or we end up with shin splints. So both of these problems are very common for runners, and for chronic runners, they usually end up with iliotibial band pain or ITB pain. So how do you actually transform yourself from couch to 10K? And is running for everybody? So we'll cover these topics in the assigned time. So where do you begin? So if somebody is obese, we can't immediately start them on running. This is another mistake I've seen many people make. So when you want to start running, first there should be an initial reduction in weight, because when you run, there's usually a force multiplication of around 8 to 10 times your body weight when you're running on your joints. So that's why most doctors, they discourage running, but it's not running that should be discouraged. It's the fact is when they start running. So that, I think more people have to be enlightened on that. So first we have to start them on something that they've already been doing from the time they were born, that is walking. So the number of steps should be slowly increased. Usually, from my experience, somebody who's working in the office, they'll be walking around 3,000 or 4,000 steps per day. Taking into account the huge amount of junk food and sugar and oil that we're being exposed to in current scenario, I think 4,000 would be nowhere near the goal for weight maintenance, let alone weight loss. And that's exactly the reason why, as the calories pile up and as our lifestyle becomes more stressful, many people end up with central obesity and eventually go on to heart disease, hypertension, and diabetes. So to prevent this, we have to increase our step count. So how do we increase our step count? Whatever we do, try to do a little more. So for example, if I want to start to increase my step count, I could walk between my patients. So if I see a patient and before I see the next patient, I could try to get in 20 steps in between. I think anybody can do that, and you don't have to be an expert for this. So these are small ways where we can get our step count more, like we can take the stairs instead of the escalator or the elevator. If we want to go to a shop nearby, we don't need to take a bike or a car, we can walk. So these are small daily changes that we can incorporate in our life. And of course, we can also start with healthy diet choices rather than radical changes in diet. Fasting is excellent, but it should not be taken up immediately. So try to make healthier choices first. So instead of having chocolate or cake, you can go for slightly less harmful choices, maybe like popcorn. So these kind of choices will eventually help you to lose weight just like that. So with just by cutting sugar in our daily diet, we can reduce around 2 or 3 kgs per month. So this is something that most people don't know. So try to incorporate more steps, make healthier diet choices, and slowly change your lifestyle first before you start to run. So, and another thing is, I think as we grow older, we need to realize the importance of stretching. And even up to 35, I think I was not very interested in stretching. And I think most of the youth are usually not interested. But as we grow older, I think this is very, very important, because to keep running, you need to foresee and avoid injuries that could happen, rather than waiting for them to happen and then starting to stretch. So for this, I recommend yoga or any kind of mobility work which should follow long runs and workouts. So there are two types of stretching, dynamic and static. Dynamic stretching is usually done fast without bouncing. And static stretching is done after the exercise is over, and we hold a certain part of our body and we wait for around 20 seconds to 40 seconds for each stretch. So that kind of stretching should always be done after the workout, and the fast stretching should be done before the workout. So that is dynamic stretching, and the holding stretch is called static stretching. And of course, 3 mobility days per week, at least 25 minutes. So mobility is another fancy term for stretching. So you have to keep your joints mobile. So when the synovial fluid is circulation is better, eventually your joint health is going to improve, and you're going to perform well in whatever sport you're doing, including running. And of course, I can't stress this enough. I think there's been a lot of research on this, and strength training has been definitely proved to help runners. And you should focus on your leg strength and glutes the foremost. And core workouts come a close second place. Many people, they concentrate only on the core and they forget the most important part of the body, which is essential for running, that is legs. So leg strength has to be improved, and of course, core strength. And when we think of the core, we immediately think of a six-pack. So there are a lot of other muscles involved: the rectus abdominis, including the external obliques, and the transverse abdominis, which is something like a muscle, like a corset around your body. So all these muscles are also play a vital role in exercise. The multifidus, the rectus spinae, even your diaphragm muscles, which is why breathing exercises also become important with time. As you grow older, everything has to be in form and in shape so that you don't get injured, and your running performance continues to improve with age. And of course, your pelvic floor muscles. So all these muscles are equally important, and all of these should be worked out either at home or in the gym. Some kind of resistance training doesn't have to be extremely heavy weights. Even moderate to light weights is more than enough. And always, guys, please take photos. This is something I can't stress enough, because many people, they just start out running and then they experience a lot of injuries. So before you start to run, always look for any kind of hip tilt or hip hike. And as you can see here, there's a waist crease on one side. So all these are contraindications for immediate running. So if you have any of these issues, take photos from behind and front and from the side. Check if you have any kind of pelvic tilt or shoulder tilt, or if you have slouch posture. Please correct all this. Visit your physiotherapist and your orthopedician, and please check if your posture is correct. And please correct all these before you start to run. Of course, you can walk with this. That's not an issue. But when you're going to seriously try to take up running in future, you have to correct all this before you start running. Because if you run with more force towards one side, you'll definitely end up with some kind of joint pain. So how do we start? So I advised step count first. So slowly increase step count, and at one point of time, probably in around 6 months to 1 year, you'll be ready to start to jog. So how do you start jogging? Because there's always initial how do you call it, fear that jogging will cause knee pain. But if you take all those precautions that we just went through, you will definitely not end up with pain. And of course, I've made a manual based on my 10 years of experience in this field. So start with 30 steps of jogging and 100 steps of walking, and alternate between these 30 minutes just twice a week. Because whenever you start a habit, you should not try to do too much at one point of time. So start with twice a week and then progress to 50 steps of jogging with 100 steps of walking twice a week. And after 1 or 2 months, move on to the same for 3 days a week for 4 for each session. And next month, make it 4 days a week. That is 40 minutes for each session. So slowly, if you see, you can slowly start to either increase the steps, or you can increase the number of days that you're walking and jogging per week. And in the 5th month, you can move on to 50 steps of jogging and 80 steps of walking 4 days a week. And in the 6th month, 50 steps of jogging and 50 steps of walk 4 days a week. So if you've noticed here, between the 5th and 6th month, I've reduced the number of walking steps in between. So you're jogging slightly more. And in the 7th month, you're going to do 70 steps of jogging and 30 steps of walking. You're slowly increasing the jogging time and reducing the walking time. So this is an example of progression of walk jog. And coming to the 8th month, you're going to increase it to 80 steps jog and 20 steps walk for 45 minutes, 5 times a week. And we've also increased the number of sessions from 4 to 5 times. And the 9th month, you work out for 5 days a week. In the first 2 weeks, make it 100 steps of jog and 20 steps walk, keep alternating. And in the second 2 weeks, go for 120 steps jog and 20 steps walk. In the 10th month, go for 5 days a week program. In the first 2 weeks, go for a 160 step jogging and 20 step walking. And in the second 2 weeks, go for 200 steps of jogging and 20 steps of walking. So if you can see, I've increased the jogging steps from 80, 100, 120, 160, then 200. In the 11th month, we go to 250 steps jogging and 20 steps walking for 45 minutes thrice a week, and also walking. And finally, after 1 year, you go on for 300 steps of jogging with 20 steps of walking. So this is how we slowly progress. And if you've noticed, I've also incorporated 250 steps jog and 20 steps walk thrice a week, because if you keep on doing 300 steps of jogging, you may end up with some form of knee pain. So try to alternate between lesser jogging steps now and then, so that you don't get injured or you don't end up with any kind of pain that will hold you back, because the ultimate goal is consistency. Run form, this is something that is very understated. Most of the people think that we can just start running. These are sort of points that we can remember. It's something like driving a car. So initially, there'll be some problem with coordinating between your gear and your accelerator and your clutch. So similarly, in run form, there are several things to remember. But as you keep running, you can slowly get in tune with all of these. So engage your core. Please lift your heels, because I see many runners, they only lift their knees. So when they bring down their feet, there's a lot of impact. So when you flick your heels around 1 or 2 centimeters behind you, the impact is also lesser, and there's far lesser chance of knee pain. And box your elbows backward. So move your elbows back and box behind you. Don't slouch, and engage your glutes when you're running. So when you have to engage both your core as well as your glutes. And please take only half a foot forward. Don't put your foot too much out in front of you. Just half a foot forward would be more than enough. Land beneath your center of gravity and not out front, and aim for a cadence of 160 to 200. For those who are not initiated with cadence is the number of steps that you can take per minute. Usually, beginners start with 120 to 150 cadence, which is one of the main reasons for knee pain. Try to increase your cadence by taking shorter steps, shorter and faster steps. So in that way, you can reach around 160 to 200 cadence. And make sure the upper body is also involved in running. So don't keep your upper body stiff. Keep your arms mobile and try to connect your upper body with your lower body. This comes with time and practice. So when to stop running, these are the list. This is the list that I've made from my own personal experience over the past 10 to 12 years. Relative indications to stop running is any kind of mild to moderate knee to hip discomfort, mild to moderate heel or ankle discomfort, or even general fatigue. Because when you run, when you're tired, we described how to run. So when you're tired, you usually forget some of the points. Tune with your body, because your mind too much. And absolute indications to stop running are, of course, dizziness, fever, palpitations, shortness of breath, high BP, so on and so forth, and any kind of pain. So pain is a absolute indication to stop running. Any kind of joint pain, and of course, lesser than 4 hours of sleep. There are many runners who try to push through this. Yes, you can run with just 4 hours of sleep, but it will slowly accumulate more kind of health issues as time goes by. So it's better that you take it easy and accumulate at least 5 to 6 hours of sleep. So, and the final point is staying safe. Please invest in a proper watch. If you want a budget watch, go for Amazfit, and if you want a really good watch, go for Garmin. So you can monitor your heart rate when you're running. Make sure your heart rate doesn't cross 120 to 140 during easy jogging days. I usually keep easy jogging days around 4 or 5 days a week, and the remaining 2 or 3 days keep it a little intense. Stay in the above zone, that is 120 to 140 heart rate, around 70 to 80% of your runs for every week. So this is how you start to run. Thank you for this opportunity, and any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Vinod. That was a very extensive and still a very beginner-friendly talk. Like you said,
Thank you.
probably don't run before you started walking, and don't end up in injuries before you've done strengthening, and following a very structured program. I mean, people think that, once you cross the finish barrier, you won. But all the preparation which has gone in the months and years before you run is actually what defines you. So thank you for putting it across very succinctly. And for this expert panel, I'm going to ask our Iron Man, Dr. Siddharth. Dr. Siddharth, what are your observations, and what do you want to tell people who are going to target the Chennai Marathon coming in January 2024?
So I'll talk about two things. First, of course, running. Running is amazing. And although Vinod sir spoke about a couch to 10K and how to run, and for me personally, the most enjoyable part of running is this running high that you get, this dopamine rush when you actually achieve things at every level. So the first time I was able to jog 1 kilometer without stopping was a huge accomplishment. I'll say that was probably one of the biggest accomplishments for me at that time, or even now till date. And after that, okay, the 10Ks and the half marathons and the full marathons, they make me feel great at every level. Gives me something to look forward to. And completing a 10K isn't the hardest thing in the world. For people who want to do the Chennai Marathon, it's not necessary that you have to run the entire distance. You can walk, jog, and do it at a very comfortable pace. It's a nice vibe. It's nice. More than anything else, you will realize how many people are actually taking care of themselves when you come and look at how things are at an event of this scale. Not everyone realizes that these are such huge things, and you have doctors from all sorts of fields, people of all professions coming and investing time into their health and doing something about it. It gives everyone a little kickstart into doing things for themselves. But besides that, one very important thing is not everyone likes to run at the end of the day. Running is great, and it's what we as humans are naturally born to do. It's in our DNA. But at the same time, for someone who hasn't done any form of physical fitness for many 20, 30, 40 years, it's probably extremely hard to start running. And there are some people who absolutely don't enjoy it at all. I believe from a wellness perspective, the whole point of what we are getting at is to make us have a strong lower body and a strong core, so that we are more stable to look after ourselves and the ones we love for a really long time. And running is just a tool that's going to help us get there. So in the journey of walking more and learning to jog more, we are essentially building muscles in our lower body, in our core, in a more fun and interesting way. If you tell 10 people, start exercising now so that 20 years from now, you're going to be more stable and you're less likely to fall while walking on the road, that sounds extremely boring. So when you do it with a sport in sight, or you're doing it with friends together, it makes the whole thing more interesting. At the end of the day, if it may not be running for everyone. Like I said, not everyone enjoys running. Some people, no matter what they do, they still develop knee issues, so they can do less weight-bearing exercises like cycling, like swimming. The whole point of it is to improve your cardiovascular capacity and to improve your core and lower body strength, because again, the end goal of all this is longevity and quality of life over the long run. And as an individual, it helps you take care of yourself. As a parent or grandparents, it helps you keep up with your family, your children, your grandchildren. And I think that's the most important part of this whole thing of going in the direction of like a sport to improve your health.
Great. Thank you. And of course, you get a t-shirt, an amazing breakfast at the end of the run, and the group photos and this stuff. But like you said, you need a lot more just to stay healthy. Not everybody has to run a full marathon, but keeping active definitely helps. And Dr. Anusha, do we have you here? Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, so yeah, I can hear you. I was just wondering, all the ladies must be thinking, all these boys are just talking about running. Every woman who starts running, first thing she complains is knee pain. Then what actually happens? So you've overcome these issues. So I want you to quickly tell me about how you overcame your issues with running.
So when I started running, actually, I started running for getting points in our Tambaram Spin and Fit Doctors group challenge. That's how I started running. So I didn't have any idea about running. So I just started running right away, and I ended up in knee pain. Then I slowly came in touch with Facebook Dr. Vinod, and I learned so much about running, like whatever he shared in the group, Speak Now. So I started focusing more on strength training part initially, and also I started dieting. Dr. Balaji Ramanathan sir, he introduced me intermittent fasting. So I started doing intermittent fasting, which helped me to lose certain amount of weight. And I continued strength training. I had a running coach, Dr. Idris was my coach. So he gave a lot of strength training specifically for runners, which involves the muscles around the knee joint. That is if the joint above and the joint below are taken care, your knee will be taken care. So that's how I got rid of I won't tell I got it. I still might get it if I do something wrong. So I learned more about the knee joint, and I started working on it. And slowly, at present I have the confidence of doing up to 10 kilometers. So I am a perfect example for couch to 10K. It is a long journey, in fact, 2 years of learning, and still a lot more to learn. But all you need is patience. You can't straight away run 10 kilometer from couch. It's not like that. It's a slow process, and once you dedicate yourself to it, you can definitely achieve it. Anybody can achieve. I was never a runner in my life, and I started my running at 36 years of age. So
Very true,
it is
very true.
possible for.
Thank you for that perspective. We say couch to 10K. People see the couch and the 10K. Between the two, it's a long story. And all of us have been there, where we like started and then injured ourselves and then got back. Thank you so much for that insight. And we rush to the next topic. Dr. Ibrahim, Muhammad Ibrahim, is going to talk to us about strength training. And I will request Dr. Ravi Kumar to quickly introduce him. Yes.
Thank you, Arvind. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. So I'm happy to introduce Dr. Muhammad Ibrahim. He's a consultant surgical oncologist, a secretary IME Tirunelveli branch, and he was a Tamil Nadu State Branch Sports Chairman 2022. So he's going to talk to us about building a strong foundation. This is more important, as you all know. That's basically strength training. So I welcome Dr. Muhammad Ibrahim. He's in abroad. So took so much pain to share his motivation talk with us. Thank you, sir. Please share.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the introduction, and thanks for the opportunity. Yes. So actually, it is a great privilege to talk after Dr. Vinod. So actually, I know a lot of people in today's program, but I never know they were all ophthalmologists. I know them as doctors, but today only I came to know many of our ophthalmologists. So thank you once again. So my topic is based on how to build the strong foundation for all the workouts. Next slide, please. So before starting, I would like to thank the TNOA, the Tamil Nadu Ophthalmic Association, and the President, Dr. Nirmal Fredrick, sir, Vice Presidents, and also Kosalram, sir, from Secretary IMA Coimbatore, for giving this opportunity. Next slide, please. So basically, I'm a surgical oncologist. So that's in contrast to ophthalmologists, because the duration of surgeries runs into hours. So we need to have a very good muscular support to do the surgeries with less fatigue. Next slide. Most of the time, the surgeries will run to 6 hours, 8 hours, and my longest surgery was almost 13 hours. So coming to the topic per se, introduction. So God created us, and we are the wonderful creation of God, and He gave us the body, and it is our duty to take care of our body. Our body doesn't belong to us, but it is a asset given by God. So it is our duty to take care of it. And exercises are one of the important thing how we can maintain our body along with other workouts. Next slide, please. So when we look out fitness, so it has a lot of components in fitness. Next slide. So in this, you can see you need to have a strength, and you should have a previous slide, please. And you should have a very good mobility, and you should have a very good flexibility and agility, or the speed of the movement, and also endurance, how long you can sustain and do a procedure or a workout. So the condition of being physically fit and healthy is it varies from different persons. So it is actually depends upon the work schedule or work pattern of each person. And the fitness includes a lot of components. Most important is the physical, emotional, and psychological fitness. Next slide. So coming to the triad of physical fitness can maintain only if we have all these three things, that is sleep, exercise, and nutrition. So sleep and nutrition, I think two more speakers are waiting to talk. I'll just rush through sleep. Next slide, please. So most of us don't give so much importance that to doctors. So we need to have at least 7 to 9 hours of continuous sleep each night. And it is during the sleep, we repair our muscles, we replace our connective tissues. And at this time only the growth hormone, releasing hormone helps in repairing of the muscles. Next slide. And also, we might have seen many people who will be doing a lot of workouts, but still not having an adequate weight loss. The charge may not be reached easily. The reason is the sleep may not be adequate. So if they have an adequate sleep, the weight loss can be achieved easily. Next slide. And you have a lot of hormonal controls, which helps in weight loss with sleep. So main thing is the GH-renin and leptin. So which are the satiety and anti-satiety hormones. Next slide, please. So which control our body metabolism, and that helps us in the reduction in the weight. Next slide. So this picture shows how this GH-renin and the leptin works and the sleep complements in the reduction of the weight. Next slide. And also we can see the sleep and hunger. Next slide. So whenever, most of the time, if a single person is not sleeping properly, the hunger is also more. So when there is more hunger, you eat more, and when there is a fatigue, you move less. And this together causes increase in weight gain and automatically loss in muscles. Next slide. So we can understand that sleep is one of the important basement or a strong foundation in having a very good fit body, both psychologically as well as physically. Next slide. Next slide. So diet is the next important component. Whenever we think about diet, most of the time it is almost 70% the fitness depends upon the diet, and 30% depends upon the workout. Next slide. So diet complements fitness in multiple ways, and you can see it should be a balanced diet. It depends upon what type of work you are having, what type of routine you are having. It should have
Dr.
complex
Ibrahim,
carbohydrates.
I'm sorry
Yes.
to interrupt you, but we
Yes,
have
sir.
exclusive speakers for these. I would request you to go straight to the strength training part because you are
Yes,
already
please.
behind schedule. Thank you.
Yes. Next slide. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. So coming to physical fitness. Next slide. So the main components of physical fitness are it should have a health related and the skill related. So mainly the cardiovascular endurance, muscular strength, flexibility, body composition, and power. And this translates into agility, speed, and endurance. Next slide. So when we look at the physiology of our muscular system, the muscles are not just organs of contraction, but it is actually an endocrine organ. So the muscle system not only includes muscles, but also it includes the bones, joints, nerves, and the most overlooked thing is the proprioception, which causes the most common complication, that is falls and injuries. Next slide, please. Next slide. So the number of muscles in our body remains static, but it is the size of the muscle which increases. So there is no muscle hyperplasia, but it is mainly the muscle hypertrophy. And the most of the time, why people do workouts is the main thing is they wanted to reduce weight or appear slim or to be fit, want to have a pain-free life and avoid frequent injuries. Next slide. But for the requirements of an athletes who are already into thing, they wanted to improve themselves professionally or improve their records or maintain fitness, maintain endurance, and have an injury-free career. Next slide. So the most easiest way in maintaining a very good muscle or the muscle bulk is to have exercise that is a floor exercise. So main components of exercise are two, that is isometric and isotonic. You can easily understand isometric means the length of the muscles remains the same, static, and isotonic is the tension remains the same. And the commonest thing is the gravity. So the easiest way is to use gravity against your movement to build up your muscles. Next slide. So the two components are isotonic and isometric exercises, as I told. So we should incorporate both type of exercises, whether it is a leg day or upper body day or a full body workout. You should incorporate both isometric and isotonic exercise. Next slide. So easiest way to do a isometric exercise is this plank. So you can have a side plank or a straight plank or a shoulder plank or an elbow plank. Various types of planks are there. Next slide. So also we should, along with that, we should have an isometric exercise. The main thing is it is the power hitter workout, and it increases the bone density. As we are aging, the density of the bone automatically reduces, and increasing the bone density prevents injuries, fractures, and other things. And it also helps in quitting smoking also, and boosts cardiovascular endurance, and is the main cause for pain relief. Next slide. So as I told, gravity is the easiest way to prevent this thing, and a lot of workouts are there. You can see the pictures, and depending upon our ease and our workout and our work routine, we can develop our own structure. What type of workout has to be done as given in the initially. So every day we can have a different workout schedule. One day for upper body, one day for lower body, one day for abdomen, one day for aerobics, and one day for proprioception. And along with that, we can have one day a rest day. So the rest day is also very important, because during that day only, we will have the repair of our muscles. Next slide. So as already told by Dr. Vinod, so we need to have a dynamic warm-up of all things, even during the strength training also. So dynamic warm-up is very important. Next slide. And it should have a periodic thing, like, for example, if you are doing a lower body exercise, it should have at least 10 to 15 minutes of dynamic warm-up. Next slide. So the dynamic warm-up increases the blood flow to the muscles and also prepares our muscles for the workout. And most of the time, youngsters avoid this dynamic warm-up, and which ultimately lands up in injuries. And usually we need to have a mild full body warm-up followed by concentrated warm-up of the selected group of muscles. So that should be sufficient. Next slide. And there is something called a circuit training. So in most of the workouts, we have a circuit training where we have at least 3 to 5 sets. Instead of doing a repetitive workout of same muscles continuously, which will land the muscle in fatigue, we can do, if you are able to do 10 repetitions of a movement, you just do 5 repetitions and do another muscle later and another muscle. And after circuit of 6 or 7 muscle groups, then you come back to the normal one. So this type of circuit training increases our endurance and increases the glycogen, muscle glycogen also, and also reduces injuries. Next slide. So this is another picture of a circuit training. So you can have your own scheme or your own structural training of what type of circuit you need, depending upon your interest and depending upon your knee joint status. Next slide. So once this circuit training is over, so initially you start with a dynamic workup, then you do a circuit training. The final thing is a stretching. So static stretches is needed not only after a running, but also after a strength training workout. So depending upon the muscle group which you have used, you need to have a static stretches, which should last at least for 10 to 30 seconds. And this is very mandatory because it will release or remove the substance P or potassium from the muscle groups, and it will reduce the post-workout pain also. So most of the time, people who start workout initially, they stop workout because their muscles become sore. But if they continue to do the static stretches, the soreness, post-workout soreness will not happen at all. So this has to be incorporated, and we should not feel lethargic in having these static stretches. Next slide. So this picture shows some of the static stretches here. So most of the time we do it during after the running. So all the muscles involved will be stretched, and it takes just 5 to 10 minutes after the workout. Next slide. And another form is the HIIT training, that is high intensity interval training, where you can do all these workouts, a circuit training workout, in a very short interval of time, but at a very fast rate. The only disadvantage is it is injury prone. Next slide. So it should not be attempted by younger or initial days of our workout, but once you are into it, once your endurance, the cardiac endurance and muscle bulk is good, you can start doing HIIT at least once in a week. Next slide. But as I have mentioned, it has positive and negative effects. And HIIT is one of the very important method to increase our aerobic and anaerobic capacity and endurance. Next slide. So next important exercise is the balancing exercise, which we always forget. So this balancing exercise maintains our proprioception, and it is in fact very, very easy to do. A single leg stance is a very simple balancing exercise. So as I told in the initial slide, our muscular system not only includes muscles, bones, and joints, but mainly the proprioceptors, which is in the joints, joint capsules, and the tendon insertions. So when you do such balancing exercise, you maintain a very good posture and also train your proprioceptors so that the injury doesn't happen. I request everyone to incorporate at least one day dedicate for this balance exercise alone. Next slide. So there are a lot of different types of balancing exercise. So different classifications are there, with movement, without movement, with weights, and without weights. So these type of balancing exercise, both the static and dynamic balancing exercises, helps us in preventing injuries. Next slide, please. So the advanced level of balancing exercise is the calisthenics, where you incorporate both your balance, the focus, the maintaining the center of gravity, as well as the muscle strength, your core strength. Next slide. So this is called a crow pose or bakasana, which is very entry level into calisthenics, but it needs a lot of awareness about our center of gravity, focus, and also muscular endurance. Next slide. So these are some of the pictures of my calisthenic pictures, which I do it routinely to maintain the proprioception, which avoids an injury. Next slide. So calisthenics is nothing but an advanced level of our balancing exercises. Next slide. Next slide. So yoga, I think already it has been mentioned. So it has to be incorporated just to improve our flexibility. Next slide. And posing is one of the important things. After completing all your procedures, do a posing for 1 or 2 minutes. So this posing helps us to assess and also give it's like a static stretching. Next slide. So these are all some of the simple and easier poses. Next slide. Next slide. So this is another calisthenic. Next slide. Next slide. So this next slide. So the stretching as well as calisthenics can be incorporated once you develop your muscle endurance, the muscle bulk, and this thing. And one of the important myth about physical fitness is most of the time people think that weight is the important factor which decides whether the person is healthy or not, but it is not so. It is the lean body mass. So most of the time when you start doing muscle exercise, muscle building exercise, your weight will tend to gain. You'll be gaining weight. So don't give up. So you are gaining weight because your muscles are increasing. So weight is not an absolute factor of fitness, but it is actually the lean body mass, the amount of muscles you have. So let us have very good amount of muscles. Next slide. To build a very strong foundation so that we will be able to repetitively do the workouts. Next slide. And the muscle bulk will definitely prevent our injuries, and also we should never forget the proprioceptor exercises. Next slide. So the proprioceptions are the one which is going to help prevent the injuries and also all the soreness and this thing. And as I told, the muscle is an endocrine organ. It is not a normal constricting or relaxing structure, but it is an endocrine organ, and they are releasing myokines. It is proven. Next slide. So you can rush. Next slide. So this is the one which I told about posing, which helps in static stretching as well as improving the assessment of our muscles. Next slide. Yeah, you can push ahead. Next slide. So the take home message is sleep, diet, and physical activity is the most important thing, and listen to your body, and never compare yourself with others. So that is very important. So most of the time we tend to gain injuries because we compare with others. So previous slide, please. Yeah. And get inspired by others and also inspires others. And your body is the your own best friend, with which you are going to be there for a longer time, and minimize injuries and take rest regularly. You can go through the next slides. So this was my first marathon, Chennai Marathon in 2020. Next slide. Next slide.
Dr. Ibrahim, I'm sorry to interrupt you again. We have 3 more speakers. I know you have an extensive coverage in this.
Next slide. Yeah, it's over, sir. Next slide. Thanks for the opportunity, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry again to cut you short. And I know that you are in Greece right now to run the original marathon. That's really an honor. And I really like the way that you said that the body is a responsibility. You do not own it. You are responsible for maintaining it. And you did most of your exercise without going to a gym within the confines of your house. And you also mentioned about all the various types. And I know strength training is not a single 8-minute session topic. It's very extensive. And so thank you for doing justice to it. In view of time, I'm going to skip over the discussion. Discussion will be at the end of all the talks. And I now ask Dr. Uttara, who's going to talk about nutrition, the science and the importance of nutrition. Dr. Uttara, are you here? I'd like to introduce you.
I'm here. Yes, I'm here. Yeah, good evening all. I'm here.
So Dr. Uttara is...
Can you hear me?
Yeah, again, I'll just put your intro slide for a second and then let you continue. So Dr. Uttara is a diabetologist with more than 18 years of experience at the Mohan Diabetic Center. She's a firm believer in holistic approach to diabetes care. She's a great orator. She has spoken all across the globe. And she's also a great contributor to the FFA, giving her insights into nutrition and how to eat better. So we've finished with exercise. Now we come to hear what to eat to keep ourselves healthy. So over to you, Dr. Uttara.
Thank you, Dr. Aravind, for those kind words, and thank you, FFA, for having me here. Thank you, Dr. Nirmal, sir. And I think it's a pleasure to join you all, in this meeting. So the topic I had been assigned is you are what you eat, or we are what we eat. However rhetoric it might sound, fortunately or unfortunately, if you have what we eat is what we are. So if you're having a healthy diet, that could definitely reflect in a healthy body. And when I mean healthy, I think the tagline has been, it's just not, physical fitness. So the diet we eat should impart health to it and also happiness. I think that's very important. So we shouldn't lose out on that, because I still do believe food is an emotion. And so don't be so narcissist about food. And so what does India eat? So this is the data from the ICMR, and where you see that you can very well see, I'm not getting into the details here, but you can very well see carb is the maximum consumption here. And it's just not, when we actually at the MDRF, we did a survey on all the processed food. So we went to the supermarket, 80% of the sales is of starch and sugary food. Okay, and 15% is all the other frozen or the processed food, and just 5% is the sales across Chennai groceries. Only 5% is healthy food, and thereby you can see the load of carbohydrate each of us are eating. And the biggest source of our carbohydrate comes from rice. This is data I'm sharing with permission from our own from a study which we also participated by Professor Salim Youssef et al. So he looked at almost 14 countries, and till we, South Asia, has the highest intake of carbohydrate. So we are the maximum carb consumer. So this is again another study from the same pure study, where you saw even after adjusting for physical activity, we had 2 wonderful lectures prior to this about physical activity, and I think because about how strength training, running, couch to potato, and all that, because the Chennai Marathon is coming, and so I'm here to talk about, because Diwali is coming. So I'm just going to tell you what to avoid and what not. So white rice versus incident diabetes, even with physical activity, there was still a risk when your carb or the white rice consumption is high. So you have to be very cautious with your carb content in food. So, there is so much data. This knowledgeable crowd here, I'm not going to go into, all the data about what can rice cause and so on. There's enough robust data available which says that your dietary habit is the cornerstone to predict your, non-communicable diseases risk. So your non-communicable diseases, if you want to control, it is your diet. You have to start with your diet, and of course exercise is another pillar. So there's so much, but still there's a huge gap, so there's no one like one size fits all, or what do we do, how can I correct myself? Eat healthy is kind of a very general term. So what do we do? So we had a small study, kind of not a small, actually it's the data from the ICMR India, where almost around 21 states were included. So we did a linear regression model predicting. So what if this is the baseline epidemiological data of how much carb each of us, in epidemiology in the sense Indian data, how much of carb an Indian eats. So roughly around 62, protein 12%, total fat 25, dietary fiber 3.5. So if you had a newly diagnosed diabetic, just to reverse the diabetes, newly diagnosed diabetes, remission we call it. So just to have a remission, if you can reduce your carb by just 8 to 13%, it is possible. So if I have to put it in perspective, if you are a 2000 calorie person, recommended 2000 calories, if you just cut 30 to 40 grams of carb, so say around half a cup or 3/4 cup of rice, if you cut down on your daily meal, you can reverse your diabetes, or you can have, in a newly diagnosed diabetes, there can be remission. That is the power of cutting down carbs. So again, here you can see if you're a pre-diabetic, for remission, reducing by 6 to 12% can bring back, your glucose levels to normal. Again, protein, if you're increasing protein, that also had a positive impact, but just a mere 7 to 8%. So we're not talking about some unachievable targets, like what we the celebrities, 4 nuts in the morning, 6 apple, 6 pieces of apple. We're not looking at any fat diet here. So if we can able to cut down gradual, persistent efforts in your diet can go a long way. So 7 to 8% of protein increase, 6 to 8% can bring back your NDD to normal and your pre-diabetes to normal. Again, fat, as Indian, fat intake is pretty less. We're not that huge fat eater. But fiber, we are way behind in the fiber intake. So, in the other Caucasian group, even if they have a high protein, high fat meal, they always have a salad or some fiber added onto it. But then for us, fiber is totally underestimated, because fiber is a kind of a superfood, which when you add on with the carb, it can bring down the GI and GL of the food. I'm not getting into the details, but fiber, you have to increase the fiber 1.5 to 2.5, and just by 1.5, a minimal increase in the fiber content in your daily lifestyle would definitely help you in remission of pre-diabetes or NDD to non-diabetes. So almost a 66 to 78% remission and a 52 to 78% remission. We had it across different groups, different stratification, normal BMI versus the obese, urban, rural, active, inactive, across, how much percentage in men and women, how different can it be, the young and elderly, how different would the reduction be. To kind of summarize that study, is like, if you are already been a pre-diabetic or someone who's in the borderline, cat on the wall situation, I think if you have a 3 to 6% of your dietary fiber in your plate, and a 20 to 24% should be fat, and 16 to 20% should be protein, and about less than 60 or less than 55, as less as possible, your carbohydrate content, then probably you can reverse your pre-diabetes, or you can prevent the progression of your NCDs. Not just pre-diabetes, diabetes is the one we studied, but diabetes per se has a link to a lot of other metabolic diseases. So I think you can prevent lot of the NCD. And if you are the NGT, that is the normal glucose tolerant non-diabetic group, then by maintaining a carb less than 55, protein 14 to 17% in your plate, 20 to 24% of fat, and a fiber of 3 to 6, you can definitely have a good legacy of preventing your diabetes, getting diabetes or any of the NCD. To put it in a simplified term, choose your plate. So have about 50% in your plate should be vegetables. So beyond just the practical thing, what you can do every day when you take a plate for your meal is 50% should be vegetables, 25% should be pulses, and only 25% would be your carb from cereals like rice or wheat or millets and so on. Remember, millets are also carbs. And use more colors in your diet. I did put this in purpose because enjoy your meal. If there is no enjoyment, I don't think it really reflects on your health. So, and there are a lot of phytochemicals which can boost your, antioxidants and so on. And it also looks very good on your plate. And the question, the $1 million question of which is the right diet, paleo, keto, carnivore, OMAD, and so on. The problem is, again, one size does not fit all, like all my previous speakers. What is perfectly fine for Dr. Shivakumar sir might not be fine for Dr. Kumaran. And what can be perfectly amazing for Dr. Arvind might not work out for me. So it's kind of, you have to work out, look at it as a wholesome thing, and just don't look at it as only your macronutrient, So don't be so fatophobic or fatophilic. Think of a diet as a whole as such. So to just give a few tips, kind of continue your traditional meal pattern. So don't go out for exotic fruits or exotic grains, import grain from somewhere. Not absolutely unnecessary, and there are not enough data to prove that. And decrease use of ultra processed or fast food. Use a lot of coarse cereals. I did get into the carb content because I was just given 8 minutes, so I didn't go into the complex carbs, simple carbs and all that, but in general reduce the carb. But the more the coarser they are, the complexity improves and GI also will be less. Generous use of vegetables, and that's one thing I think none of us could argue on. So vegetables definitely gives you the fiber, pulses and sprouts. Free sugar restricted to less than 10% of your total calories, even if it is Diwali. And sugar, when I say free sugars, it's sugars, honey, syrup, fruit juices, and so on. Alternative, you can use alternatives like water, buttermilk, tether coconut, milk. And milk is kind of a real, the ugly duckling or something like that, because they always had a aversion towards milk, and recent studies are proving that it's not actually that bad. So decrease consumption of bakery food. If I have to stop with just one advice, or not advice, one comment to you all, I would say, please read your food label. That can go a long way in, making your healthy choices. Include fiber-rich food. Use of traditional oils, example, groundnut, sesame, or mustard oils, where you can get your NUFA and UFA. So to end with, the take-home message, I would say, is be aware of what you eat. So add quality to your diet. Don't be totally worried and so exhaustive about the quantity alone. Be about the quality of a diet. Have whole grains and legumes, adequate dairy, and MUFA-rich food like your nuts and so on. And refrain from refined grains. So the more the process, the worse it is on your health. The more polished, the more shinier, the more whiter it does more harm to you. And oils high in N6 also to be avoided. And extra vegetables and fruit. Always say yes for vegetables and fruits. I will stop here, and for want of time, and thank you for this beautiful opportunity to listen to such insightful talk, and to be a part of this wonderful FFA committee. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Uttara. That was so much of scientific information still made presentable and understandable to everybody. So I get it. Enjoy your food, involve a lot of colors, take a lot of vegetables, read your food labels, all stuff very, very relevant before Diwali, especially when most of our resolutions break down. And then after Diwali, we have this post festivity depression that we actually broke all our rules. Thank you very much. I'm again going to move on to the next speaker, and we're going to keep the discussion to the end. FFA has a policy, you have to sleep well and get up early morning for the exercises. So I'm going to move on to our next speaker. So we've done with the exercise, we've strengthened the body, filled our stomachs. Now it is the turn of the mind. It's not that it's coming later. It is the most important thing, definitely. So Dr. Mangala, Dr. R. Mangala is a psychiatrist practicing in SCARF. She's the assistant director there. Get on slide show. The untimely rains in Chennai have actually delayed all our internet connections. So here, Dr. Mangala has actually joined us on very short notice. I had to make a personal request, and I'm really very happy that she could join us. Again, she also has a lot of interest in creating awareness about mental wellness among the community. And she actually does full-day workshops for stress management for professionals. And I had to tell her to curtail her talk within 8 minutes. All of this is an introduction, and I want you to be made aware of, and hopefully we'll have more stuff like this coming soon. Over to you, Dr. Mangala.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aravind. I think this is an evening really well spent because I'm really happy that I'm here today. It was wonderful listening to all the speakers talk about about all those aspects of wellness. And I think what I'm going to say now is almost redundant, because if you have taken your physical health, physical activity, your diet into place, then I don't think I need to do anything specifically about stress management. I think all that it becomes already taken care of, right? So anyway, so I'm just trying to add a few more points to what has been already said about the secrets for mental wellness. So thank you very much for that introduction. I am a psychiatrist by training, and I'm attached to the Schizophrenia Research Foundation, which is a 4-decade-old non-governmental organization. And these are all the activities that we have there. You can find more details on our website. So now moving to stress. So that is what we are going to talk about. Yeah, I would have definitely liked it to be more an interactive session, but for want of time, I don't know what people understand by stress, but it is universal. Every creature, every living creature on earth does experience stress, and we are not in any way an exception. So how do you define stress? No, it's a combination of thoughts and worries which have a negative effect on our body's responses. So what is important here is what we think and what we feel. So if that is what we need to focus, if we understand that, then I think stress management is also very easy, because stress management also focuses only on what we are thinking and what we are feeling. So it's not a problem, but it is just that it shows that a person is not resilient. I think that's a very, very weird equation there. If P is more than R, then that is equal to stress. It simply is, if the pressure is more than the resources, that can lead to stress. So when we say resources, it talks about the individual's capacity, and pressure is when there is a pressure from outside to perform, that can lead to a lot of stress. So now these are all the common predictors of stress that we have come across, all of us have come across in our life, a lot of clutter, rushing, delayed appointments, but all these can stem from these 4 specific things, negative situations. It could be a difficult day at work when you are doing extra work to cover for somebody, or you have deadlines to meet which are quite unreasonable. Positive situations can include having a new baby and taking care of your newborn, or even going out of the country. If you're making arrangements to go out of the country on some job or higher education, it's a very happy thing to do, but still it could be very stressful. And not everybody handles stress the same way. There are certain personality traits which play a very big role. People who are very, who don't react much, people who say very little, they are people who are less likely to feel more stress than others. Like the same way, people who are very introverted and have a very limited or no companions or friends are more likely to have, they are more likely to experience stress. Now, secondhand stress is something all of us are familiar with when we live with people who are always stressed. If people around us are stressed, I think we tend to become stressed. It can be highly infectious. And women tend to suffer more from this than men. That is a very common finding globally. So now I think this is not something I need to explain at all. This is what doctors go through, male or female. I think we go through this kind of a routine. All these can cause stress in our lives. And when it comes to midlife crisis, we have the challenges of managing children leaving home, leading to an empty nest. When you can feel stressed, you can feel depressed, suddenly feeling that your entire life becoming meaningless. The financial situation, losing spouse or parents, and changes in the physical appearance, menopause, physical illnesses, financial crisis, all of these things can create stress for us. So, am I saying that it is only external factors that are responsible for our stressors? Definitely not. More than these are all just factors which could impact, but not everyone. So what really matters is how the mind is conditioned to accept all these changes or challenges that we come across in our lives. It could be changes in your life situation or work or in your relationships, children. It could be anything. But when the mind becomes too conditioned over a period of time, it is not able to accept certain realities and uncertainties, that we tend to become a little more pessimistic. We are not able to see anything in bright light. And there's a lot of negativity in the way we talk about ourselves or the way we comment or relate with events that are happening in our lives. And sometimes the expectations can become highly unrealistic. And there is an excessive need to seek perfectionism, which is more to settle down our own inner anxieties. So all this can lead to a lot of stress. So now when we are stressed, since we are talking biology here, the stress happens in the body. And this is something I don't think I need to explain. All of us know about the, the role of the hypothalamus, the corticotropin releasing factor. Whenever there is a stressor, which is a pressure from external sources, the hypothalamus can get stimulated and release the corticotropin releasing factor, which acts on the pituitary gland to release ACTH, which in turn is going to release cortisol and adrenaline, depending upon the source. Depending upon the nature of the stressor. Adrenaline is for acute stressors, which leads to the fight or flight response, and cortisol is for chronic stressors. So now when this cortisol reaches a certain level in the circulation, it has to go and offer a negative feedback to the hypothalamus and cut down on the release of CRF. Unfortunately, the hypothalamus is continuously being triggered by the pressure from outside, namely the stress, which is going to make it release more and more corticotropin releasing factor, which is leading to more cortisol in the circulation. And so that is why the stress keeps you in a constant state of vigil. Now, as we all know, cortisol is such a double-edged weapon. It could be very good. It can also cause a lot of problems, which is why, all that abdominal fat, developing frequent infections, all this can be because of the excess cortisol circulating in our blood. So now, how do you identify if we are going through stress? Yes, like I said, the physical problems, even very repeated respiratory infections for no reason at all could be a sign of exhaustion. And that can be a significant drop in the performance, which might be more prominent in other industries than us, except if we are involved in any specific research and other kinds of activities, which we tend to cut down because of our stress. And there are very, very uncharacteristic errors that can happen in the course of our work, or there can be missed deadlines, becoming very irritable, angry, a lot of emotional outbursts, feeling very apathetic. I think this apathy is something, is one of the reasons which is responsible for the reduced communication between doctors and patients and caregivers, leading to all that mishaps that happen around all over the country, where families of patients end up beating up. I'm not saying the doctors are responsible for that, but then this also contributes, especially when it comes to the younger doctors, the residents, the senior residents, who are constantly under stress because of sleepless nights and continuous working hours, which is definitely not humanly possible. So they tend to develop a sense of apathy, which makes them communicate lesser with families of patients or their relatives. And this is not my observation. This has been brought out in a study which was done by the IMA, which showed that 80% of doctors in India are stressed, and about 45 to 50% of the stress stems from the fact that they have been victims or exposed to violence in some form in their workplace. And if there is an increase in the use of alcohol or drugs, when there are memory issues, and if there is a tendency to overcompensate for all our difficulties by trying to do something more to prove to ourselves that we are okay, and if there is a constant free-floating anxiety, like always waiting for the other shoe to fall down, so that kind of a feeling, all this could be signs that we are stressed. It is very difficult for us to acknowledge these things unless we really sit down, put ourselves in the third person, and reflect on what we are going through. So now, who are those people who are at high risk for developing a burnout in their work? People who have very high ideals and who always feel that their ideas are always right, who can never see the other person's viewpoint, getting very easily irritated with others, or they can be constantly blaming themselves for anything that happens that goes wrong around them, or they could also have a tendency to blame others. So all these people could be at a high risk for burnout at work. And sometimes, the job becomes very monotonous.
Dr. Mangala,
and,
sorry to disturb
yeah,
you again. It's about 11 minutes into your talk. I would ask you to summarize. Thank you.
Okay. Fine. So how do you cope with stress? So coping with stress is nothing but striking a balance between your work and personal life. So basically, it comes down to time and situation management. So again, sit back, try to gather a feedback on how you have spent your time or how you are usually spending your time, and identify those areas about which could be changed, but how do you measure how you spend your time is, again, it's a task which will be part of a stress management class and cannot be covered in the time given here. So, but basically you prioritize and choose which was something that you could stop doing. That is one of the easiest way to cut down on your stress. And other things, I think people have already spoken about: exercise and sleep and food. One thing I just wanted to add about food is the proteins that we if we consume in more quantities than the carbs, it improves the level of serotonin in the system, which helps you feel happier. So serotonin and dopamine, they are formed only from the protein food that we consume. So that is one aspect of how food is important for mental health. Yeah, so, and you can also see how you can change the way you think. If you can replace irrational beliefs with some reasonable thoughts. All of us are fallible, and it is okay for us to ask for help if we think we are in need. Asking for help is a sign of strength, and it is never a sign of weakness. That is the first thing that we need to know if there is a mental health issue. And if there is a problem, I think it is important that you talk to people around, people you're close with, and take a problem solving approach. And it is very important to say no and be assertive wherever it is needed. And muscle relaxation techniques, I think all that, I'm not talking about the muscle relaxation that was discussed as part of physical activity. This is more about progressive muscle relaxation, which is for reducing stress, which I think if you search for Jacobson's progressive muscle relaxation on the internet, you will find videos which you can learn from that and start practicing. So just in a nutshell, when there are stressors, we will have stress, and you can either fight it, move away from the stressor, and return to normal with coping strategies. If you don't cope, there is a high possibility of ending up in mental exhaustion and breakdown. Humor is one very good way of coping with stress. And so that is why I always use this slide. So thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mangala. And I really feel guilty that I'm asking you to do what you would do in a day's work in just a very short time. Thank you for summarizing it very well. And I'm sure we will be making more use of your expertise and your knowledge in helping professionals de-stress in the future too. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. And your enthusiasm is very infectious. I enjoyed being in this session today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, madam. So I will now ask Dr. Shaktish. Dr. Shaktish is an ENT surgeon who specializes in sleep management. Dr. Shaktish, yes.
Yeah, he's here.
Good evening, Arvind. Am I allowed to share my screen? I cannot share my.
Yeah, I'll just put your intro slide, Dr. Shaktish. So Dr. Shaktish is an ENT surgeon whose special interests are in sleep-related disorders. He runs the Hopkins ENT Center in Chennai, and he's a visiting consultant for the Department of Sleep Apnea Surgery in KIMS Trivandrum. As always, we put sleep at the very end. It is our fault, but it should, I think, be the most important. So thank you for joining us, Dr. Shaktish, and I would request you to tell us why sleep is the most important. Over to you, Dr. Shaktish.
Thank you, Dr. Arvind. And second.
You're able to share screen, Shaktish?
Yeah, I'm just trying to do, sir. Are you seeing my screen, sir?
Not yet.
We are seeing you, sir.
Are you able to see it now, sir?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, TNOA, for this opportunity. Thank you, Arvind, for the introduction. So wherever Dr. Nirmal goes, it has become familiar that well-being, he's become a brand ambassador for well-being, be it physical well-being, mental well-being, or financial well-being. So I'm happy to see that it is happening in TNOA as well. So keep inspiring, sir. And it is a fantastic session. It was very happy, not just to be a speaker. I was enjoying it as a participant here. And I am, at the end of the day, I'm in a very unenviable position of making you sleep by talking about sleep. So, I have a friend back from college. He was my roommate. So he has this gift, whatever happens, write dot on 10:15, whatever is happening in our room. So be it like 10 people chatting, reading, music's blaring, he'll just simply fall off whatever he's doing. He's sitting, standing, lying down, whatever, he'll just doze off in that position. And I happened to meet him after a very long time. in a freezing cabin when we were out on hiking. So I was super excited meeting him after a very long time. And it was the same 10:15. And I realized after 5-10 minutes that I was the only one talking. He had dozed 10 minutes past. That's such a gift that not every one of us possess. But sleeping like a baby is a gift. But it is something that we would all love to have, and it is important to have because sleep is such an important thing. And sleep is such a very exhausting and enigmatic topic. So I've tried to oversimplify sleep for sake of better understanding. So why should we need to sleep? So it is still poorly understood, but there are theories that are put forth. So one is an evolutionary concept where sleep is supposed to serve a concept of energy conservation. As you might be aware, we are all hunters and gatherers. So when we are not hunting and gathering, we need to conserve our energy. So it is a way of body's mechanism to lower down the BMR and the energy utilization, so that it is supposed to be there for energy conservation. And like Dr. Ibrahim was mentioning, so I had not gone into all those details. So a lot of growth hormone and other things get produced during sleep. So it is a very important component, and it plays an important role in cellular repair and restoration. So when you're into fitness, sleep is as important as, if not more than, the activity and diet, because only when you rest, you can go back tomorrow and do the activity next day as well. So, and it is also important for brain function. It is understood that whatever experiences and memories that we gain throughout the day is processed, and fresh memories are generated only when we have a good night's sleep. So that helps in developing the cognitive function of the brain. And like Ibrahim had mentioned about the background of all these things, it is very important for the weight maintenance and the insulin function, because a lot of hormonal changes happen during sleep, which is very important for maintaining our weight and health. So, and finally, it is also supposed to improve our immunity. So once again, I've tried to give you a very simple overview of the sleep and wakefulness balance. So in our brain, you have two different systems, opposing polarized systems. One is an arousal activating system and another is a sleep promoting system. On the arousal, which is located in the brainstem, specifically the reticular activating system, and there are neurohumoral chemicals which are responsible for it, which is dopamine, noradrenaline, histamine, acetylcholine. And on the other hand, you have sleep promoting system, which is located in the hypothalamus. And the neurohumoral chemicals which are involved is GABA and adenosine. So why we should know about all these neurohumoral chemicals? Because these are going to be the factors. Whichever things are going to affect these neurohumoral chemicals are going to play a key role whether we are able to have a good sleep or not. So, and circadian rhythm is something that we are all aware of. So it is the light which plays a key role in regulating the circadian rhythm. So whenever we are exposed to bright light, so that tends to suppress the sleep system and promote the wakefulness system, and the opposite happens when there is not much of light. So this circadian rhythm is a biological clock as we know it, and the main regulator is the light and the melatonin. So you have the melatonin coming in late at around 7-8 p.m. in the evening, when our body temperature, blood pressure, everything is at the maximum. And then melatonin induces a sleep, and it takes us to the relaxation, the peak of which happens during the early morning hours, and the cycle keeps on going. And this chart is very important to understand what things can affect our sleep. So the wake and sleep is a complex interplay between these two hormones. Once again, I'm trying to simplify things. It is an interplay between cortisol and melatonin. So imagine cortisol as something which stimulates our brain, and melatonin is something which relaxes our brain. So it is a complex interplay in between these things, and it is a circadian rhythm. As you can see, the peak of cortisol happens during the early morning hours. The peak of melatonin happens during the middle of the night. So this interplay is very important in understanding what can affect our sleep for the good or bad. So, and as we know, there are stages of life, sleep. So you have N1 where we are actually beginning to doze. We are not actually asleep, but we are just transitioning from the period being wake and into the sleep. And N2 is, or what we call as light sleep, is the longest part of the sleep by duration. And then you have what is called as the deep sleep, which you can divide it into two, which is the NREM or the N3 sleep, and the REM sleep where we actually dream. So you can take these two together, like REM sleep and the N3 as deep sleep. So they alternate during the later hours of the sleep. You go to a lighter sleep, you spend the earlier hours of sleep in N2, and once we go into the late night and the early morning, that's when N3 and REM alternate with each other. So this N3 is very, very important because that is the restorative phase of the sleep. Because it's not just the quantity, as we will talk down my presentation, it is also the quality which is important, because N3 is the phase of sleep where you get the maximum benefits of sleep. So as you once after all these discussions, we might have understood that there are a few important factors which can affect our sleep. So number one is light, because light is very key component of our regulating our circadian rhythm. So any light factors can definitely interfere with our sleep pattern. And food, definitely food increases the insulin, which is it kind of gets the activity increasing. So definitely food, and when you take the food and what kind of food you take, definitely is going to have a say in your sleep. And mental activity is going to increase your cortisol levels, and that definitely, by going by the chart that we saw just now, is going to definitely have a say on our sleep. And finally, exercise is a very important factor which can affect sleep. So what kind of exercise and when we do definitely matters. So at this chart, you can understand that, so diet, when we take light, it is better to avoid exposure to bright lights when we are closer to our bedtime. So lighting definitely matters. And food, it is better to avoid heavy food closer to our bedtime. So it is better to have food, our last meal, much before our bedtime. And light exercises are supposed to promote a better sleep, like meditation or yoga. And better, definitely it's not advisable to do a heavy training closer to our bedtime, because it will increase our body temperature, which will affect the normal circadian rhythm. And of course, coffee, alcohol, everything will interfere with the normal sleep. So it is best all these things are avoided closer to the bedtime. So coming to exercise and sleep, exercise done during the daytime definitely have been established to promote sleep, and that is by producing what is called as the adenosine, which we saw in my earlier slide, which is a key role player in inducing sleep in our body. So, and exercise done outdoors also help regulate the circadian rhythm, because if you do a early morning outdoor activity, you are exposed to light, thereby you are actually regulating your circadian rhythm. And like I mentioned just now, it is better not to do strenuous exercises closer to bedtime. And like I mentioned earlier, quality of sleep definitely matters. So the time you spend in the N3 sleep is very, very important for a good restorative sleep. So the N3 sleep is naturally reduced with advancing age, and there are other pathological conditions which can reduce the N3 sleep. And among that is my area of specialty, which is the obstructive sleep apnea syndrome, which is the commonest reason for the quality of sleep getting affected. So obstructive sleep apnea syndrome is something which is an underdiagnosed. You cannot call it a silent epidemic. It is rather a loud epidemic, but it always gets ignored, because even as doctors, we see that most of our colleagues are not completely aware of what really happens. So obstructive sleep apnea, what happens is the patient's airway collapses when he goes to the N3 sleep, and it results in hypoxia and arousal, and this cycle keeps on repeating. So let me just cite one example of my patient. He was a lawyer from the High Court. His only complaint was headache in the mornings. He had seen ophthalmologist, neurologist, ENT surgeons, and he had come to me for some other reason. As a passing conversation, he was mentioning that he had a persistent headache and he had been getting treating. And I just asked him one question: do you snore? And his answer was yes. And this is a question, if you ask me, must have been asked a lot earlier. And we evaluated him. We did a polysomnography. We did treat his obstructive sleep apnea, and his headache was completely gone. So that's something, because the obstructive sleep apnea and the quality of sleep getting affected can manifest itself in very many different ways. So it can be naturally difficult for us to pick up, but it is very important to be aware that quality of sleep also is very, very important, and the factors that can affect the quality of sleep. So once again, so let me close by saying, for a healthy life, it is important to eat well, sleep well, train well, and keep repeating it. And just before I end, can anybody tell me what is wrong with this picture?
The eat is showing the sleep picture. Sleep is showing the eat.
Then I have failed in my mission.
Modified.
On that note, thank you very much for a patient listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shaktesh, for
Did
waking
you
us
hear
up.
any snore, Saktish?
Sir?
Did you hear any loud snore during your talk?
Anusha has by pointing out the mistake. So
all are unmuted, sir. All are unmuted.
So they are wide awake. So there is no
Our group always says that we have to sleep early, but this is 9:30, so people may be snoring around.
But excellent talk, Dr. Shaktesh. Thank you for
It
waking
was
us
really
up
excellent,
to
really
the
excellent talk.
importance of sleep. We are going to have a quick panel discussion. I am going to call upon Dr. Prasanna Raj.
Yes, sir.
Our retinal surgeon from Hosur. Sir, I want you to talk about the mental health issue, right? Dr. Mangala spoke so much about stress and management, how to identify it, and among professional circles. As
Yes,
a professional yourself, running your own institution in a Tier 2 city, what do you perceive stress as, and what do you think Dr. Mangala can help you with?
Yeah, stress. I think I just read this thing. I just read it again from the words from the writer. To remain stable when the life goes awry is a happier result than grasping for whatever the society tells you will make you happy. It means like stress is something which we cannot avoid in our day-to-day situation, day-to-day life. And what we can always do is to maintain the balance. To maintain the balance, we can do our mental health exercises. We have spoken a lot about the physical health exercises, and the mental health exercises also we need to add like meditation, yoga, and so forth, where we can balance our life with whatever stress that we face every day. And most of us, when we face any situation, we try to react rather than respond. So that the small difference is we react instantaneously rather than to assess the situation. Is it really necessary to react? And we can slow down ourselves and then try to respond ourselves for the situation. And these are the small things which we can change over time. And stress again adds to our mental health with increasing our anger, increasing our cortisol levels, and its consequences. So I think Dr. Mangala had covered most of the things what has to be told. I think meditation is something which we need to add in our daily practices, at least 10 to 15 minutes of meditation, mindful meditation, which definitely would help in balancing our life rather than avoiding the stress factors. We are not we cannot really avoid stress in our daily life.
True. And very well put. Maybe, yeah, we will probably start on courses on meditation very soon to help manage that. And like you said, you're going to the Vipassana course in January.
Yes.
Maybe, we'll have to start compulsory courses for professionals so that they learn how to manage their stress. So thank you. Dr. Kumaran, sir, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Arvind, loud and clear.
Yeah, so what is your take on sleep, sir? Dr. Saktesh put it so elegantly. Like sleep, there are so many phases, everything is important, but none of us actually follow it. I don't think any of us gets enough sleep. So what is your take on it, and what would you like to ask him?
Yeah, so I started noticing sleep as an important factor for a healthy lifestyle only after I bought my Apple Watch. It started giving me a lot of split up of what your sleep is, the deep sleep, the core sleep. I never used to understand. And when my watch tells me your deep sleep was only, say, 10%, I was wondering what that means. But after listening to Dr. Saktesh talk, we are able to understand how important sleep is to regenerate yourself. So that's what made me understand. It's basically needed to build up your muscles. So sleep is also an important factor. And the slide which he showed, the things which you need to avoid before going to sleep, was very useful for us.
True. And I guess that's a very valid point. And unless we document our sleep, we are not going to find a problem with it. Right? And nowadays we have technology where you can document it and probably take action on it. Your take, Dr. Saktesh, do you advise people to wear a smartwatch and record their sleep?
Nowadays, the wearable devices are pretty accurate in assessing the phases of sleep. So definitely, it is not just a gimmick. So you can definitely get an overall idea on how much and how good you're sleeping. So definitely, it kind of reinforces our behavior. Okay, so nowadays there are a lot of studies which are coming up, which mentions that use of these wearable devices for promoting wellness is definitely, there are a lot of studies are coming up mentioning their importance in promoting wellness. So it gives an idea about what we are doing and where we are put up. So definitely, madam, definitely I would recommend.
There is no financial interest in recommending an Apple Watch. Apple is definitely not paying us any money or sponsoring this program.
Doesn't matter. Any other device which is giving the right information and data, Satish?
Sir, we use a device which is called as Watchpad. See, these wearable devices like Garmin and Apple Watches, they kind of they work by the inbuilt gyroscope, which measures the activity and the muscle tone. So the gyroscope mentions our movement during the sleep. So based upon that, they have an algorithm which can make a rough guess at of the what time we spend in each stages of our sleep. So this Watchpad is a much more medically oriented devices which we use to do polysomnography for patients, because it has additional, apart from this gyroscope, it also has a pulse ox reading and a chest movement monitor. So which is a more not recommended for everyone just to assess their sleep. But if you are suspected to have sleep apnea, then those studies might be required.
Okay, like the CGMs for glucose monitoring, is there a continuous sleep monitoring device which is not really medically oriented, a layperson or a non-specialist can use?
Yes, sir. The wearable devices from Apple, Garmin, they do a reasonably good job in assessing your normal sleep routine. And there are published studies which kind of support this data, sir.
Dr. Siddharth has something to contribute.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that besides Apple and Garmin, nowadays you even have rings. There's the Aura ring, and recently Ultra Human, an Indian brand, also launched their ring. So it's just a ring that tracks your heart rate. It's got the sensors just within a ring, tracks your heart rate, tracks your sleep. Fairly accurate, excellent product. that
There's
is
something.
becoming quite popular right now. Just a ring.
There's something called a Whoop band also.
Whoop,
Actually,
the only issue with the Whoop is it's a subscription model, and you need to pay every month, something like that, which
but
is why
actually
Whoop is not
it monitors your respiratory rate, your body temperature, everything. It took off actually while COVID was there, and a lot of people found out that they were affected with COVID with the Whoop only. But most of the professional athletes use it actually to monitor their core body temperature, their respiratory rate, and all that.
So there's a lot right now. Wearables it's a new, a whole different world out there.
Dr. Shivakumar, Dr. Shivakumar is there, is he?
Yeah, he is there.
Yeah, so Shivakumar sir is renowned for his fasting coaching, but now he's recently into strength training also. So I would like him to question Dr. Ibrahim about the strength training talk that he gave. Does he have questions? Does he have comments to talk to offer?
No, Dr. Ibrahim is a giant in strength and conditioning training. I'm only a beginner to learn the strength and conditioning, but I think he's done extensive talk. The one thing is important is I think everyone who is starting strength and conditioning should first learn the breathing pattern for all the strength and conditioning, and then to have some kind of, as he told, flexibility and stability. So I think anyone who is starting strength and conditioning, they can add some breathing exercise initially, and then they can do the proper strength and conditioning. That's my only add-on.
True. And in fact, Dr. Ibrahim very nicely actually pointed out that muscle is an asset, and building muscle is essential for all of us. It is the one thing which is going to see through us for a long time in our old age and in our health span. And I think we should be investing in that as a long term. And like he has pointed out, you don't need heavy weights. You don't need to go to a gym. You just need a dedicated, structured program. Dr. Ibrahim, are you there?
I have a question.
Yes,
Arvind.
Yes, Dr. Yes, please. Go ahead.
Sir, actually, Dr. Ibrahim, we find a lot of old people actually with a lot of sarcopenia having a lot of falls. So if we want to encourage them to start doing, I mean, the diet, of course, it's there, to start doing some sort of weight training or something like that, how would we go about it? Older people who have never done anything in their lives, not even middle age, probably past 60, 65, but they have a lot of bone resorption and they have a lot of falls due to sarcopenia. What do you advise for them?
Yes, sir. It's a very important question. Actually, the king in an older age are those persons who have the best legs. So the most important thing is we should improve their leg muscles. So leg muscles are very easy to develop and also very easy to lose strength also. So the quadriceps, the calf muscles and the hamstrings. Very easy exercise is sit-ups and calf muscle raises and hamstring stretches. It is very easy to tell, but difficult to do in elderly, main thing because of the osteoarthritis. But with slowly doing the exercises, as Dr. Vinod was mentioning, how you should increase gradually. There should not be any fast forward in this thing. You should do it very gradually. And once the muscle strength increases, automatically the osteoarthritis symptoms will disappear. In the ground where I am training regularly, I meet one of the retired inspector. He is 84 years old. He was suffering from osteoarthritis for a long time. He used to watch all my stretches and dynamic stretches after the doing the things, and he started imitating those stretches, the leg stretches. And he told within some 2 or 3 months, he was able to walk upright without any pain. So once you develop the muscles around the knee, automatically the symptoms of osteoarthritis will disappear. So the best method for these elderly people is they should develop the muscles not only of the leg, but also of the upper body also. They can use simple weights, 1 kg or 2 kg weight. So one day upper body, one day lower body, and they can continue their walking also. And in the meantime, at least one day for proprioception. So proprioception, most of the time we think it is not of much use, but for elderly and also even for our age group, proprioception, there is a balancing exercise is very, very important in preventing joint injuries, tendon injuries, and also preventing fractures, fall and fractures.
And even for women, I think women should not shy away from weight training and strength training. Dr. Anusha? I know you have your own strength training regimen. Would you
So
like,
I mix up strength training and yoga equally, and I also have my running schedules. So that's how I plan my week. And yoga I consider as a rest day. So rest day should not be a complete no workout day. You must do some movement. So yoga we can consider it as a rest day. And strength training, either I group up muscles like upper body, core, lower body, or some days I do a full body strength training like a circuit workout. The one thing about strength training is the form of the exercise is very, very important. Otherwise, it is very easily we can injure our joints. And also the other thing is patience. See, Rome was not built on it, so you can't just like that get a six pack, or you can't just like that show your arms like this. So you have to get that patience first. So everybody should have a long-term goal and a short-term goal. The short-term goal should be like how to learn it properly. Long-term goal should be like how to improve it slowly and how to build on the exercise. And learning from YouTube platform is also one way to do it. But it's always better to have a personal trainer at least for learning the form of exercise initially, and then do it yourself. I would suggest that, because I did a lot of mistake when I started strength training. I injured my joints, and then I had to wait for me to get recovered from them. So it was a bad experience for me. So I would suggest everybody to have a personal trainer at least for initial when you're starting it. And then once you learn about the basic exercises, you can build on it in the future. You will learn how all you can avoid injuries first. That is more important. So avoiding injuries is the first thing. It should be the first thing rather than going too much.
Thank you, Dr. Anusha. Dr. Kaushal, do you have questions for Dr. Uttara? She's given an extensive research-based guideline for reversing diabetes. There's one diabetologist who actually used the term reversal of diabetes. I'm very happy that she said so, because we always assumed diabetes was a life sentence, in fact. Dr. Kaushal or Dr. Kumaran has raised his hand. Would you like to question Dr.
It was
Uttara?
a real eye-opener, actually, your talk. And it was the fact that you said you make your meal more colorful. And that itself, it gives you a lot of positive energy. And your points on valid points on reducing the carbohydrates and the sugar, it was very pertinent. But what I would ask is, like, we are basically ophthalmologists. We are all new to this. We have started doing some work. Actually, we have started getting from the couch to a couch to walking more steps, couch to a 3K and 3K to a 5K. From 5,000 steps, as Vinod was telling, we are slightly trying to move to 10,000 steps, and we find it very difficult to do it on a day-to-day basis. So with this kind of preparation we have to do, what should be the ideal diet for us? Or what should be the gap between the meals? And
yeah, thank you, Kaushal, Dr. Kaushal. I think, the ideal diet, again, I have to quote back that I can't, in a general forum, find a diet which can fit everyone. So the basic thing is there was this controversy, all this started up, earlier 2 decades ago when we started practicing, and all that time, I used to tell my patients to cut down fats, then increase proteins, and then carbs. So and then the whole thing kind of went topsy-turvy, and now we are like, carbohydrate is the worst, then of course is fats, and then protein. So increase your protein. Protein always had the good boy effect, and it's always in the good books, but it is the fat and carbohydrate which had a kind of a tug of war kind of. And now we do understand that carbohydrate is much more harmful than fat. There are, for want of time, I didn't show a lot of things about some really new data which showed even the LDL level, even when you take fat, didn't increase that much, but actually the ApoB and ApoA, all that, but even with carbohydrate, it had an higher impact. And the cardiovascular mortality also was much higher with carbohydrate on comparison to fat also, which is something, not the old school of thought. So I think that is where the decision when we choose our plate is. So that's why I showed you a plate kind of. So you can't be monotonous. So all these diet plans and after a webinar you're gonna have dinner, or I don't know if in between you had time to squeeze in something. But if you're gonna have dinner now and you can't really at this late go have really pick out things. So try to get it as wholesome. That was my point. Is that over a period you're having all the macronutrient macro and all the vitamins that you need for your body development. So again, as all my previous speakers said, if you're exercising, don't cut down carb totally. That's wrong. You have zero carb and you're exercising. I think where you get the energy from, especially in a competition or something like that, in a marathon. I think all my other co-speakers would agree, when you're on a marathon, the quick snack is always a carb. So where you use your carb, what kind of carb, and what are the performance you're doing, so how much you need. So it has to definitely be individualized. So there's no one thing. But in a general statement, reduce your carb, increase your protein and fiber, and to a moderate amount of fat. That would be the general statement we could advise.
Dr. Kumaran has raised his hand for a question and he's been waiting patiently.
Yeah. So my question is for Dr. Ibrahim and to Vinod. So the first question is, sir, what is the approximate normal lean body mass? Does it vary with age group? And for Dr. Vinod is, apart from jogging and cycling, would you recommend some other form of exercises like swimming and say an aerial yoga sort of things, which could also kindle interest in them? And the other thing is, there are a lot of talk now, doing exercise every day gives much more benefit than doing ultra marathon and cyclothon, which actually has no health benefits at all. So what are your views on that?
Is Dr. Vinod there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'll answer the question.
Yeah, please, sir.
Yes. So, other than running, of course, yes. For those, as some of you pointed out, not everybody is interested in running. The main intention is to keep in good health, and the basic thing is we have to burn calories. So this can be done through any form of exercise, and preferably not too much of a weight bearing exercise. So if running is difficult and if your joints are in jeopardy, then you can think of cycling. And even in cycling, sometimes when there's an intense headwind or when you're climbing uphill, you are going to insert your knees a bit. So yes, swimming would be one of the safest exercises for your joints, and it not just improves your knee health, it also improves your back health. And there are several other benefits. The only problem is you cannot swim continuously for a very long time unless you are an expert swimmer since childhood. That is the only thing. You can't keep on burning calories. If you're able to do it, then I would say swimming actually burns more calories than running. It's just practically not very possible. And yes, sir, as you said, aerial yoga is also a very good alternative. As you grow older, there'll be lesser joint impact with these exercises. And the main crux is your calories in should balance with your calories out for weight maintenance. And if you're going to burn a little more and eat lesser or the same amount, then you're going to lose weight. So that is the basic thing. So if you're able to do aerial yoga and modify your diet accordingly, then you should get good results. That's what I want to say. And you also asked about the ultra endurance events. Yes, there are a lot of evidence pointing out that ultra endurance events actually cause harm when done in too much of frequency is too much. So limit the high distance or high mileage exercises and go for shorter distance, some kind of interval training along with a lot of low intensity training. So this is what I usually recommend. And if you are really interested in ultra marathons, maybe once in 3 months, an event once in 3 months should be fine.
Yes, sir. I completely agree with Dr. Vinod's statements. Everything is good. So in addition, you are asking about the lean body mass. So lean body mass is not a constant number. It varies between age, gender, and also race. For an ideal male, for a good athletic male, it should be approximately 70 to 75%. Well-trained athletes will be even up to 90% of the mass will be muscle mass. And females, it will be slightly lower because of the hormonal influence. So the advantage of having more muscle mass is even when you are taking rest, the muscle continue to burn your calories. So that is the advantage of doing this strength training. So anybody wants to reduce their fat, in addition to their dieting and other sleep, everything, if they do strength training, definitely there will be reduction in the fat mass.
Thank you.
Dr. Siddharth, you have a question? We are closing 10 o'clock. Our YouTube audience has actually dwindled. But of course, this is a resource which is going to stay. He's withdrawn his hand.
No, I'm so sorry. I just have one very small thing to say. Kumaran sir asked if marathons and ultra marathons are actually detrimental. So the worldwide authority in longevity, there's this guy, David Sinclair, who's done extensive work on all of this. And the ideal thing for longevity is about 2 or 3 days of 30 to 45 minutes of resistance training a week. 2 or 3 days of cardiovascular training per week, which is again not more than 45 minutes to an hour. And cardiovascular training, it can be absolutely anything. It can be running, it can be cycling, swimming, rowing, whatever it is. But the thing is, like I mentioned earlier, once you start running or cycling or something, it becomes addictive. You start enjoying that form of exercise rather than doing this sort of a schedule here. We know this schedule is going to make us probably live the longest, but here is something else that we enjoy a lot more. And by doing something that we enjoy a lot more, we are probably going to do it for a much longer time. So in that way, I feel, yes, it's probably not ideal to be running 50 kilometers and 100 kilometers and cycling 300, 400 kilometers. But I would far prefer that to doing nothing.
Arvind, just one more point. Actually, once you start doing all this, you'll have a lot of friends who will say, oh, they'll send you a news article about somebody who suddenly died while, cycling or this thing. It does occur. I mean, it's actually a good idea to get a health checkup doing all this. But I have only one answer to all those. Some people enjoy smoking. Some people enjoy drinking. They are addictive habits. I enjoy running and cycling. That's also an addictive habit. Maybe not that good as, a good schedule like Siddharth said, but that's what I am.
Very, very nicely put, Dr. Balaji.
And that process is more important, Arvind. More than that, it's not about running the 10K or the ultra marathon. It is a process of being fit.
Correct.
That should be the emphasis.
Absolutely. If you enjoy the process, then it doesn't look difficult. You're not focused on the result, but you enjoy the process. So this was kind of really a very energetic and invigorating discussion. We had subject experts from different fields pour in their minds about different aspects of health and wellness. I'm sure none of this is complete or exhaustive, and we still have a lot more ground to cover. This is just a beginning, and hopefully we will have much longer, much dedicated sessions. Dr. Kumaran, you have something to add?
No, I think if we are getting short of time, I think I could short my question. I have one more question for Dr. Uttara. If you have time, we can take it. Otherwise, we'll call it a day.
You can ask Kumaran.
Yeah,
You will not take permission today.
So I think Dr. Uttara has been doing a lot of work on frailty and diet. It is one of the core topics in Dr. Mohan's also. So I just want to know what is the call on that diet and frailty.
Yeah, I think, thank you, Dr. Kumaran. I think briefly they did mention about sarcopenia and so on, which has so much role even in, preventing NCDs and frailty. It's a very topic close to me because frailty is something you do have a lot of the geriatric syndrome, which was also mentioned, like the falls, fractures, and so on. And for that, also for prevention of frailty, many of these studies and the data has shown that high protein meal and of course resistance training. These are the two very well proven things which can prevent frailty, at least delay frailty in our elderly. So I did have a small pilot project where we looked with the dynamometer, the handheld dynamometer. So we looked at the hand strength of all our patients who were above 60, and then we categorized them into robust, frail, and severely frail, and then we had them with a high protein diet and resistance training, and there was a significant improvement in their frailty level, even though it's not an RCT. But yes, we were able to see a significant improvement with even a short term, like 6 months of resistance training, and there was a minimal improvement. So on a long run, definitely a very healthy protein diet and resistance training can help us in preventing frailty personally also.
Okay, can I take the privilege of asking the last question?
Yes, please, sir.
One question for me also, sir.
Okay. So question to Dr. Uttara, I think you spoke about the reversal of diabetes. There's a lot of debate about whether it is a real reversal or it's a remission. So how do you ensure it is a real reversal, and how do you follow up on these patients? How frequently follow?
Yes, what we call so-called reversal, or we don't call it reversal as Dr. Arvind did mention, call it remission, but even to term that is that the patient is off all medication for at least 3 months. So he or she can be on diet and exercise for 3 months if he's able to maintain his A1C and his blood sugar levels under the target without any medications, who was ideally when earlier diagnosed with diabetes, then we call is able to remit the diabetes. And I think I showed you all the studies, sir, which did show the newly diagnosed diabetic who are able to have a remission, and even the pre-diabetes who are able to get back. It is possible in most of the patients, but not all. All diabetes cannot be reversed, and when most of us do talk about remission in type 2 diabetes, we're not at all talking about in the other forms of diabetes that is sometimes misunderstood, and we've had some of our type 1s also coming and topping insulin, going on diet and exercise. So that's one thing in a medical forum, probably it's only I needn't explain that, but till it is only type 2 diabetes and about 3 months. The problem is in diabetes per se is two components. One is the insulin secretory defect and the insulin resistant defect. So the early stage, we're definitely able to tackle the insulin resistant defect. So that's with exercise, diet, and so on. But the secretory defect, that unfortunately cannot hold on for too long. That is why complete reversal is not possible in many of our patients. That's why, and especially Asian Indians have a faster burnout of the secretory factor. So that's why I think we call it remission and not reversal. But of course, any good diet and exercise, you're off medication, you're well motivated, and you want to feel healthy, and you want to go off medication, you have your labs under control, well and good, you can do it as long as. But all we advise them is to keep constantly monitoring, and just not go off without monitoring, and I'm off and I'm not diabetic, and go back to your original thing. That's the only thing. We are a little cautious, and you can continue diet and exercise for about 3 months without it, and we call it remission.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
With Dr. Ravi Kumar's last question, I will ask Dr. Kumaran to give the vote of thanks. Is that fine?
Okay. What about so it's a fantastic elaborate talk about everything. So I want to just ask the common attendees here in the rainy days. So all the elaborated exercises, all they told. So what we can practice in the home for these rainy days, like Siddharth and the trainer, Vinod, and somebody can tell us a few exercises we can do regularly so that we can keep in rapport with the regular exercises.
மழையில ஓடுங்க பஸ் தப்பே கிடையாது.
Body weight exercise should be more than one.
You can sing in the rain and run in the rain, Ravi.
Sir, I'd like to answer here. It's a very important question.
I think yoga and indoor exercise are already there. So you have to be a bit choosy about the indoor exercises.
Should we wrap up with the regular what you are doing heavily, what cycling, all this regular exercises are heavy. So in wrap up with that, what can we do that we can suggest?
Dr. Ibrahim ஏதோ சொல்றாரு.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Sir, actually, very important question in the current scenario. So during rainy season, we tend to have a lot of injuries, both in cycling or running, even in walking also. And even if we walk, somebody else may come and hit us. So that risk is there in road walking. So best thing is strength training at home itself. That is very important. So in my presentation, you would have seen almost all the exercises, pictures were taken in my home. So I learned home strength training during the COVID lockdown only. So gravity is your best friend, as I told. You can do a lot of exercises against gravity, just a plank, a side plank, or push-ups. These are all very simple exercise. You can do anywhere, in your clinic, in your bedroom, or anywhere in your practice. So that can be done. So only thing is, before doing that, just warm your body and do that. So this can be done 15 minutes to 20 minutes. That's enough. And whether it is rain or shine, we will continue to do our workout. So, and the workout should be safe and injury free. So we can do it, sir.
Fantastic, sir.
Ravi Kumar, you can play table tennis. So I'm a table tennis player.
No, I very strongly agree with what Dr. Ibrahim said. Home workouts are the best. Personally, I have the luxury of having a treadmill at home because I do a lot of running.
So you should buy something on your own.
Yeah, but that's a personal thing. Otherwise, when you are confused and you don't know what to do, there are excellent resources of 15-minute, 20-minute strength training sessions on YouTube. It's free by so many fantastic trainers. Just do one session and you're done for the day. So you've done something.
Yeah, few dumbbells also with you to do some.
Like not necessary, like Dr. Ibrahim said, not necessary at all. If you want to, that's again, it's a luxury. But otherwise, you really don't need it. Personally, I do my strength training also at home without any equipment. I just use a mat. I do it for 20 minutes, maybe 3-4 times a week.
Fantastic.
That's about it. Nothing else at all.
Awesome expression.
Ravi,
I think that's more than
Ravi, your Surya Namaskara is the best form of dynamic exercise and stretch, actually. The Surya Namaskara, which you show in the FFA.
Yeah. That is the yoga, the thing. No, the Surya Namaskara, you do continuously for 20-30 reps. No, that gives so much powerful stretches and all the things together. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So all of you may have a quick smile for a screenshot with your lights on. Say cheese or whatever exercise. Aha. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Ibrahim.
Thank you, Dr. Nirmal.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Dr. Kumaran.
Yeah, Kumaran has to talk.
Yes, vote of thanks.
Vote of thanks.
So, okay, on behalf of the TNOA President, Dr. Nirmal, and the Vice President, Dr. Morgan, and all the office bearers, and all our dynamic members of the FFA group, especially Dr. Aravind, Dr. Ravi Shankar, I would like to extend a sincere gratitude to all our speakers who are able to make time to attend our webinar and enlighten and educate all our members on a healthy lifestyle. A sincere thanks to Dr. Vinod, who always sends the adrenaline pumping whenever he shows his amazing achievements. You are really an inspiration, and we hope to join you soon. Special thanks to Dr. Ibrahim, who took time to join us all the way from Greece for his running. And thank you for the amazing insight you've given us for building a strong foundation, sir. The most important part of healthy lifestyle is always choosing a right diet for a healthy life. And Dr. Utra really highlighted the number of diabetes, and India leads the list of having number of diabetes. And I thank Dr. Utra for joining us to enlighten us on all the diet. And also she showed what I experience every day on my dining table is what she showed today. Your body can't be healthy without your healthy mind. And thanks Dr. Mangala for your mind matters. And finally, I thank Dr. Saktesh for helping us understand that recharging yourself with the proper sleep is the top priority for a healthy life. And thank you all.
So, and a special thanks to Manjula and Sai for being the good Samaritan and extending a helpline during this for this webinar. Especially, there was an initial trouble, streamline problem. So, thank you, Manjula and Sai, and thanks Niranjan as well. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Aravind, fantastic.
Sir.
Nirmal, sir, fantastic, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Ravi.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank
tomorrow
you,
we are
sir.
going for trekking as a family, sir. So thank you.
Oh.